Hey everyone, so a lot of the channel is looking for new builds, new picks, what's best in the meta, right? That's what I focus on a lot of the time. That obviously comes from stat sites, in my opinion, other regions, a lot of different research, a lot of places, but definitely one that it doesn't come from is Riot. Recently though, they released a little graph about what they consider OP and how they work out who deserves a nerf. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to take a look at that from fresh eyes, find a few new things that are hidden gems, and hopefully give you a few ideas on what to play. This is the graph, right? And I'll link to it down below if you want to go and take a proper look at it, but that black line is their OP level. Close to that or above that especially, that champion is probably going to get hit at some point or another with a nerf. They're trying to find a balance between their win rate and their ban rate, right? So if they both go together, like they're both pretty high, then they're probably going to be too good. So for example, according to this, Tahm Kench is the worst champion in the game right now by a mile. Hecarim is the strongest, if we're not counting that little dot for Morgana mid lane. So first up then, who in Riot's eyes are the strongest champions in the game at the moment? Top 3 definitely going to be Morgana mid, according to the stats at least, is the best champion on here, over a 50% ban rate and over 53% win rate. Even though this is for Morgana mid, that ban rate is really going to be support focused, right? But it is still an insane win rate, and Morgana mid is actually pretty good at the moment. After the update that she had, her W has way more kill potential at lower health totals now, so you are going to be able to pick up a lot more kills, but also push harder as a mid laner. Also, the Glacial build is back right now, so GLP, Twin Shadows and stuff, so Morgana mid can basically just send those out, slow everybody, hit them with a Q, and follow up from there. Hecarim jungle is number 2 on this thing. Jungle even more than top, it looks like. Jungle is actually above the line, so definitely needs the nerf, and top lane is just about on it. In the jungle, he is a heavy ganker, right, who can also power farm. So he has this kind of early influence in the game, which is exactly what we want in the game right now. But apart from that, he has a good farm speed. He's going to get a lot of gold from that. It is also Conqueror, insane dueling with that from the healing, the AD and everything, and the healing from his W together. He just kind of refuses to die, but he will be able to kill you as well. Vayne is the one actually below the overpowered line, but the closest one to it, and more for AD carry, but also top lane isn't too far behind that. We all know how insane she is at just 2 items with Blade and Rage Blade, even though she keeps getting stronger throughout the rest of the game as well, which doesn't really make sense. So those 3 are probably going to get looked at some point soon, nerfed probably by Riot, but there are some other very strong ones within 1% of their overpowered line. Morgana support is also going to be close to that because of the ban rate more than the win rate. She does have a bit more damage now with the pool, as we said, the same for mid lane really, but you also just stop aggression really. So if you play a playmaker like a Thresh or something like that, chances are you are going to ban Morgana so you don't get countered, so that is going to contribute quite a lot to it. Zed is also like that, more here for the ban rate rather than the win rate, but he does have a very high skill floor compared to some others, so win rate is not always going to be the highest anyway. Riven is kind of the opposite to that though, banned in less than 20% of games now rather than the 50% for the other 2, but closer to a 53% win rate, which is really high. Conqueror makes it a lot easier to play because it supplies the damage, but also supplies a lot of healing, and when you throw in something like a Death Dance or a Black Cleaver with that as well, maybe even a Spear of Sojin, it suddenly makes her a bit easier to play, and that is why her win rate is so high now. Now, Sona is hardly banned at all, maybe like 1 or 2% probably, but the highest overall win rate on this entire chart. Kind of makes sense because of Sona Taric a little bit, that might be contributing to it anyway, but honestly with her normal play, she's very straightforward but highly effective. Zilean is a classic example of something that we would call underrated, right? Not played very much at all, but also very close to the overpowered line with a very high win rate. This is probably going to be support, but we're not 100% sure on that. I can't really tell, honestly, but the double bombs do really good damage whether you're mid or support, and the stun can be game-changing in a team fight. Now, Jinx is way more popular than the other 2 we just mentioned, but she is rarely banned and it has a very high win rate. We have buffs to her mid-game with her Q, with her minigun, the attack speed, and how that works, and also to her zap, and those have really helped her out, and that is when she kind of like turned into this beast. Now, Jax is banned more than Riven, but also a lower win rate at the same time. He can take over a game when he picks up Spear of Sojin, that's pretty much his second item, right? And definitely late game, you have either pressure from your team fights or on your split push, so there are definitely ways you can win and a really hard champion to play against. Master Yi is the final one in this kind of 1% category, so he's banned about 20% of the time, still does really well though. Wit's End boosts him up even more than before because the item is basically perfect for him with the damage, the stats, and the healing. He is about the same level as Jax on here as well, and we do know he is getting a round of nerfs as well, so that would make sense. Like, this 1% territory is basically where champions are probably going to get a change at some point. So let's move on to another category that I've got here. So these are very strong champions within 1.5%, so more safe, but they are very good. Vlad is banned about 30% of games at the moment, and a good Vlad can literally 1v9 a game completely. He turns into burst late game. He has ridiculous damage and healing anyway at that point, and he keeps getting better throughout the game. So if he gets a lead early or he manages to just kind of survive, you're always going to have a problem. Now, Draven also has about 20% ban rate, but still actually a good win rate, and we also know that he does much better on experienced players. The win rate should never really be the highest because of that, but when it is, it means that the people who can actually play him are doing insanely well. Moving towards our other end of things, Lux is not banned, but a very good win rate at the moment. Now, I would guess this will be mid lane because the win rate is so high, but it could also be support because she is good there as well. If we just assume it's mid lane, she is very safe, good wave clear, poke, and has a one-shot combo that is amazing for mid-game fights, and that is why she's had a really good win rate for a couple of patches now. Ahri is banned a little bit more than Lux, but only at 5%, so hardly at all, but performs really well. This is definitely going to be helped by the fact that she's running Glacial at the moment. Well, most of the time you run a Glacial build, you can do with the GLP and the Twin Shadows, and it's insanely good. Another set of champions here are within 2% of this line as well. They're going to be good, but they're much more safe, so they're probably not going to get nerfed at all, or very unlikely. There are loads of champions in this category, by the way, but they don't all have names, so we can only go over a few of them. Now, Jarvan has a very high play rate, so he's kind of the exception to this. High win rate, high play rate, that might actually mean that he does get a nerf, and we've seen that as well in patch 9.9, I believe, so that's a little bit different. Kayle, though, has a very high ban rate, still at 26 to 27%, still even after the nerfs as well. Her win rate is about 51, so it is not insane at all, but she is still this hyper late game scaling champion. Sivir is also here as well, never banned, but a higher win rate, which is really good for her, especially with the crit build that she's running at the moment with Essence Reaver first. Her lane phase is a lot of this. She has more damage now because of some of the buffs, but she can basically nullify like anything in the game. You're just going to push with your W and Q, and you can't really be beaten. Karthus also has a high win rate, barely played and barely banned though, and this is something as well that you're going to see a lot more at higher in mark games where they jungle him. I'm guessing this is jungle because that's literally the only place I ever see him now, but if he gets rolling in a game, he can be extremely deadly because the ultimate does so much damage and you can't really avoid it. Another jungler here is Rek'Sai, 20% ban rate, but actually still a pretty good win rate. Rek'Sai has been nerfed quite a lot, so she's not going to be as good as she was in the past, but if you gank early, she can definitely still snowball out of control and has a lot of damage. Last one here in this kind of category that we can look at is Shaco. Almost next to Karthus, but slightly lower win rate right now, but not played very often at all. Shaco is also kind of notoriously like a one-trick champion. You only really play him if you main him, or most people do anyway, so that might be why his win rate is a little bit higher. So if you just care about the highest percentage win rate champion, right? So if you just want to know who wins the most, like percentage-wise, then it's going to be these 6. So Sona, Zilean, Jinx, Morgana mid, Lux, and Ahri. According to Riot, those are the ones that win the most solo queue games right now, no matter who is playing them. And so if you just care about winning, they might be a good place to start. Now I want to move into some sweet spot champions. So these are rarely banned, but they have really good win rates. They're unlikely to get balance changes either, which makes them great to actually play for a longer period of time. So Sivir, Karthus, Jarvan, and Shaco we've kind of already talked about. These guys are really good. They're never really banned. They aren't picked that much either, except for Jarvan, and they'll be able to play them most of the time and still have a really good win rate. There are 4 others that we can look at as well that fit into this. So Ivern is barely ever played, but he hard camps the lane and he's really good at it. He also is a buffer to like AD carries or a carry meta, which we are in at the moment, so he can keep your Irelia or your Jax or something like that alive, if not your AD carry, and he's rarely ever nerfed or buffed, so you're going to be in a good spot for pretty much the entire season. Nasus actually fits into this as well. He is insane at lower elo games at the same time and can always carry late no matter what happens. Rammus actually is in here as well. He's really good versus AD champions. Tanks have been buffed recently with the Sindhulk, which is really good, and scales well into mid game when he gets his Thornmail. Urgot finally is our tier 1 kind of like safe champion, sweet spot champion to main. He does stupid amounts of damage now after his changes, especially when he gets into mid game, but Conqueror is really good on him. As well as you get some AD as well, you'll heal for a ton and it'll be really difficult to deal with. There are actually also some that might need buffs, so below a 49% win rate and rarely banned, which suggests that people just don't have an issue playing against them and aren't really afraid of them at all. So Caitlyn, for example, is one of these. Isn't really as straightforward as people think and needs trap damage read to make her work normally, which isn't that easy to do. According to Riot, she does have a really low win rate, but I bet that increases with higher MMR, so like higher rank games, and also more playtime and more experience. Ornn is also still struggling even after all of these recent buffs. They put a lot of power late game and like into the scaling side of things with his passive, but it doesn't always go late game anyway, so you don't get the benefit out of that. You're also pretty team reliant as well, because you are literally there to increase the power of your teammates, so they had to take some power out of Ornn in the first place. There are also some below a 48% win rate, which normally means that they're pretty bad champions, even though I wouldn't have thought so for some of these. So Syndra, I kind of get, barely played or banned anymore, low win rate when she is as well, but shows she's probably on the weaker side. There is no reason to pick her over some other burst champions in my opinion, more risky as well because you're very immobile and a lot easier to gank and shut down. Zac as well apparently hasn't really had much benefit out of these Sindhulk changes, even though they came in like last patch I think. He doesn't really have as much damage as other tanks like a Rammus or a Sejuani, and that's probably the biggest biggest issue because he can't really do that much himself. He is way more team reliant. Nocturne is a surprise for me though. I thought he was actually pretty good. Other assassins, I guess, are just better right now, like a Kha'Zix, and so you probably should just play that instead. His ultimate though does last a really long time, so he can be really useful and he can snowball out of control. So as I said, I was pretty surprised to see him at such a low win rate. Gallio is in a pretty weird spot though. They nerfed his AP side of things, and I see him more as a support now and way more popular in Korea for roaming and kind of like a kill lane with the taunt. Gragas is also still struggling, but they are actually looking at runic echoes and buffing AP junglers in general. He has really good early ganks, but poor scaling apart from the engaged side, and that's the biggest issue you're going to have. Aatrox is our last one, barely played anymore, doesn't win a lot when he is played either. They are looking at doing more work on him though, so this will likely change pretty soon. So hopefully you found this video interesting. It's a bit different, but I thought it'd kind of be cool to look at things from Riot sides for a change rather than our eyes. Thank you for watching until the very end. I should be streaming right now as well. If you fancy stopping by, I'll throw a link down below if I am. But for now, I will leave you with robots.